code trading system, and this is Sunday the 25th of August 2019, and this is the weekly outlook for the fourth week of August, final week for the month. And we'll start with a recap of the euro, and you can see that it was consolidating for most of the week and until Friday, where it managed to bounce off the support level here and climb all the way up to above 111 to a high of 111.53, so well above the weekly pivot line. And all these was due to the comments from Fed Chair Powell, or in his prepared statement at Jackson Hole, where they were still concerned on the trade wars, and although they didn't have any plans to further rate cuts down the line for the year, they may need to review that at the next month's FOMC meeting, although he has not give any insight as to whether the Fed would cut rates in the next meeting. But the market is expecting a 25 basis cut for the September meeting coming up in a few weeks' time. Right, let's just zoom out to the 4-hour chart, and you can see that previously the euro was contained between the 21 Fibonacci retracement level and down to this support level at the 110.60 area, and until it managed to find support and then triggered a bounce from the prepared speech. Further to that, President Trump also announced further 5% tariffs increase from 25% to 30% in response to China's retaliation of introducing a 5% tariffs on US goods. So this tit for tat is escalating, and trade tensions is definitely the main theme going through the weekend at the G7 summit, and it will continue for the next couple of weeks as well. So moving back to the daily chart, now that this was a bullish close for the euro, there could be a continuation move to test the monthly pivot at the 111.70 area at this resistance zone, together with the 38 Fibonacci retracement level. So that will definitely be a target for next week. And now this zone will be support at the 111 area, 111 to 111.10 area. Okay, so let's move on to the cable. The cable as well followed suit on the Friday, but prior to that it had already broken out on Thursday, and in fact it already started to move on Tuesday with German Chancellor Merkel's comments on possible alternative to the Brexit deal with UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, and this already helped to push it up to the upper trend line of the triangle. Pause for the following day, and then follow up by President Macron's comments for possible solution, alternative solution to the Brexit deal as well, to the Irish backstop issue. But nothing has been sealed, so UK Boris Johnson has to work out an alternative solution in the next 30 days. On all this while moving into the G7 summit this weekend until next Monday. Then there was a fairly muted response to the Fed Chair Powell's statements on Friday at Jackson Hole, because the cable had already reached the weekly R2 pivot level and went through this resistance zone at the 138 Fibonacci extension level. Switching to the 4-hour time frame, you can see that it had already reached the 200 period EMA, and then follow up on Friday just to close just above that, and the weekly R2 pivot. So there could be consolidation at the start of next week before any continuation move. So going back to the daily chart, so the monthly pivot is definitely a clear target, followed by the weekly R3 pivot level. We'll see what that pivot level is going to be for next week's recalculation. Anyway, there was a previous swing low at the low of the triangle and aligns with the 55 daily 55 EMA as well. Okay, so now we'll see whether this level will hold as support. For next week, or whether it could retrace lower right back down to this weekly R1 area where it broke up from. Alright. Now moving on to the Aussie dollar. Aussie dollar fell below the lower trend line of the triangle on Thursday already, after the FOMC minutes, and let's move on to the 4-hour, switch to the 4-hour time frame. You can see that it found support at the 138 Fibonacci level and retested the weekly pivot, as well as the 55 period EMA, as well as the lower trend line of the triangle where it fell out from. And after hitting that, it quickly pulled back in because of Trump's tweets on his response to China's retaliation on US tariffs, and that drove the commodity-based currency lower as it is exposed to trade tensions with China. Okay, and switching back to the daily chart. So it is constrained by the weekly pivot and support. It found support at the 138 Fibonacci level. So this week we'll see whether there's going to be a continuation move lower, or it could be consolidation first for the next few days before any moves, and especially any further news on the trade war between US and China. Now for the news this week, for the euro, there is some preliminary CPI and GDP figures from certain countries, and then on Friday there is flash estimate for CPI for the eurozone. So that's the main news for euro. For the UK, it's a holiday on Monday, and there is no major news events for this coming week. And just as for Australia, there's only one key news events on Friday, which is building approvals. So for the last week of the month, it's going to be fairly light in terms of news. However, for the US, there are a few news events. On Monday, there's core durable goods orders, followed by consumer confidence on Tuesday, and then preliminary GDP figures on Thursday. Alright, so those are the key news events for next week, and we'll follow up on the G7 summit conclusions, as well as any new developments in trade wars between US and China as we follow up on Tuesday's analysis. Alright, meanwhile, have a good trading week and cheers.